Welcome to another edition of Wellness Wednesdays. You know, this is what we do every Wednesday from 8 a.m. till 9 a.m. right here on Alpha Jiri. It's all matters health. And today, like Sarah said, we are actually talking about antibiotics. Now, did you know that your habits could be keeping you from getting well? The use of antibiotics is common. You know, they've probably been prescribed to you by a doctor, or you've actually been purchasing them at the chemist for yourself. Well, the misuse of antibiotics has actually created a new threat known as antibiotic resistance, which has made it harder and harder for medical practitioners to cure diseases. And so what are the dangers and what do we really need to know about antibiotics resistance? Well, we do want to welcome back to the studio for a second time Dr. Samrat Shah, who is a consultant from MediHeal Hospitals. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, good to see you again.
Yeah,
last time I think we were talking about acid reflux or
no,
what?
We were talking about insulin and diabetes.
Oh yes, diabetes. Apologies for that. And so with that, today we're actually talking about antibiotics. Very interesting discussion. We've had quite a number of people actually, requesting and inquiring about antibiotics because it's common. We're using it almost every single day. But now here comes in this threat about the misuse of antibiotics.
Yes.
And so why don't you start off by explaining what antibiotics resistance really is?
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, we need to know how antibiotic resistance develop.
Yes.
Okay. Antibiotic resistance is something wherein you take antibiotics,
yes,
you misuse them, you don't take it in a proper way,
yes,
or you suddenly change the antibiotic, because of which what happens is the bacteria which are present in your body, they become resistant to that antibiotics and they no longer act on that antibiotic because you are changing the antibiotic suddenly.
Right.
So basically resistance is something wherein the bacteria which are present in your body are becoming resistant and they are not helping those antibiotics to kill them. That's the simple concept of antibiotic resistance.
Right. There's the misconception though that yes, we are the ones who form the resistance and not the bacteria
yes,
actually forming the resistance.
Yes, it's always us who are going to form the antibiotic resistance because we misuse antibiotics. The antibiotics are available over the counters.
Yeah.
They are given even when you have viral infections, which actually don't need antibiotics. Okay, the antibiotics are misused by the doctors also, wrongly prescribed by the doctors when not necessary.
Yeah.
Because of all these things, antibiotic resistance is coming up.
Right.
It's not the bacteria.
Yeah.
Bacteria just infects you. It is us who develop resistance against the antibiotics. That's why even WHO once said it's a World War III.
Right.
Against the antibiotic resistance, because it is the doctors who are basically going against it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, just speaking about WHO, World Health Organization, they actually described antibiotic resistance, rising fast to dangerous levels in all parts of the world. Can you actually just explain what this means from a global perspective? Why should we really be worried about this?
Yes.
Yeah.
About antibiotic resistance,
Yeah.
WHO stated a statement that by the end of 2050, across the globe, the GDP is going to drop drastically.
Okay.
And they said one of the reasons for this could be an antibiotic resistance, wherein the mortality rate increases.
Right.
In the sense, when you're using antibiotic too frequently, you're using them again and again, wrongly being prescribed, then you become resistant to that antibiotic. When you become resistant to that antibiotic, when you actually need an antibiotic when you are sick, when you have infection, you have nothing to work.
Yeah.
Then you land up with mortality. And that is the reason why the mortality rate is also increasing day by day.
Oh, wow.
To talk about Kenya, there was an interesting article published in 1970s, actually in 1970s, stating that animals were the one which started giving antibiotic resistance. It's an interesting story. There was a study being conducted on farmers.
Right.
Okay, and they found out that farmers are more fond of using antibiotics to the animals. They had a myth that antibiotics, if you use to the animals, they grow better. Because of which, the overuse of antibiotics happened in the animals, and these animals started developing resistance against the antibiotics. You won't believe 70% of the animals are resistant to antibiotics.
Oh.
Like simple infection like E. coli, today we see that they are 70% resistant to all the antibiotics. So because of this, the threat is increasing.
Okay.
One is from the agriculture perspective.
Right.
Second perspective is from the doctor side. You know, when an antibiotic stewardship was formed in 2017, even Kenya as a part of it, 22 countries joined together to form an antibiotic stewardship. In that, Kenya was a part of it. So during that stewardship, they decided some criteria based on how to combat with these antibiotic resistance. The first thing they said was, we need commitment from the doctors. What happens normally is a patient comes with sore throat. The most common thing is
sore throat,
or sinus infection, or sinusitis, or tonsillitis. This is the most common thing. Everybody prescribes antibiotics for them.
Absolutely.
Okay. What happens is, when you go on prescribing antibiotics for a viral infection, which doesn't require anything as such, okay, then you start developing resistance against those antibiotics because you're using them frequently. All right. And because of this, it was found that more than 90% of the doctors are using antibiotics which are doing nothing.
Terrible. And so at the end of the day, people are purchasing, spending money
on buying antibiotics.
But that's not working, not effective. And so I'm imagining these are longer periods of you trying to seek treatment because now it takes longer for you to cure the issue. And yet again, it's a loss. But now here comes the question, doctor, that most people don't know when then to take the antibiotics and when to stay away from them. Is it depending on the type of infection you're trying to deal with is when you require the antibiotics? Maybe you can guide us on that.
Let me talk the common diseases first. Let's say about the UIT or cough and sore throat. Okay, you know, my professor used to teach me, when you have sore throat, it takes 7 days to go when you take antibiotics. When you don't take antibiotics, it takes 1 week. It means it's just the same thing. So basically what guidelines say is, you should wait for 10 days when you have sore throat or cough. And if it does not respond by 10th day, then is the point when you start antibiotics for sore throat or common cold. Second thing, on the day 7 or from day 5 to day 7, if the disease worsens, then is the point you consider antibiotics. But having sore throat, common cold, tonsillitis for first 3 to 4 days, there is no indication to start antibiotics. One of the simplest thing what is being told is, just see if the patient has fever. If the patient has fever, you can consider antibiotics. If the patient doesn't have fever, you can still wait and watch. Okay, so at least 5 days you should wait without doing anything and allow the body to heal itself.
And that's another thing about building our immunity. There's lots of talks because you hear this. You know, I don't know how true this is. Maybe you can confirm that we need to start allowing our bodies to build their own immunity, but we seem to kill it off by always just pumping pills into our body.
You know, you can just compare Maasai community and the rest of the community of Kenya. You can see the antibiotic resistance in Maasai community is very less because they are not exposed. They are also living in the same world of the viruses, all the bacteria, but how come they don't have antibiotic resistance? Because they are not exposed. Their immunity is allowing itself to heal. God has given us so much immunity that we can control it. Why WHO says you wait for 10 days? Because you allow your immunity to kill those bacteria and viruses. If you don't happen after the end of 10 days, that's why they say you start with antibiotics. So that's the basic difference between the Maasai community and us. They are so strong, they don't need antibiotics, they are not exposed to this antibiotic world, because of which they are protecting themselves. We being sensitive, one day we have cold.
In fact, when you can sense it a week away, the minute you've just got that cough, you're off to the chemist. What does that tell you, though? And please give your opinion, your honest opinion, about then the board, you know, the Pharmaceutical and Poisons Board at this particular point, and the kind of regulatory system that we have right now. The fact that even I can just walk into any chemist and say, I want some augmentin, I want this, I want that, and it will be handed to me. Are we going in the wrong direction? Okay.
Definitely we are going in a wrong direction. Because over-the-counter prescription should not be allowed. Most of the countries have banned over-the-counter prescriptions. Okay, especially for antibiotics, antidepressants. There are so many drugs which are being banned over-the-counter. Okay, unless and until you have a prescription, you won't believe there are countries who take even 24 hours duration. The prescription is for today. They will give you antibiotics only today. If with that prescription you come tomorrow, you are not given those antibiotics.
Very strict.
That strict policies we need.
Yeah.
So that we also have antibiotic stewardship, we prevent ourselves from getting antibiotic resistance. That's the first thing which we need to do.
Right.
Second thing, it's not the fault of a patient. To be very frank, I feel it's the fault of the doctors.
That's true. I was going to get to that. Yeah.
Yes. It's basically the fault of doctors because we are rushing towards using antibiotics and trying to get the patients. Okay. The basic thing what we need to do is have an antibiotic policy in every hospital.
Right.
Strict criteria for when to use antibiotics.
Yes.
Yes. So, I think the doctor should take a step first. As I was telling you, WHO gave 5 criteria.
Right.
In that, the first 4 criteria were meant only for the doctors. Commitment from the doctors,
Right.
following the policies, installment of strict policies. The last thing what WHO said was give patient education.
Yes.
It means doctors are more responsible than the patients.
It's true because we don't know.
Yes,
we don't
exactly.
know. So I'm following your lead. If
Yes.
you tell me take this,
Yes.
I'll get better. So then, yeah, there goes the issue.
Yes.
So then what really does happen in a situation where you've got a patient with an infection and you can actually see that he has built a resistance to the particular drug? Does that mean now stronger dosage of these antibiotics? How does the treatment then, you know, go?
So for this, first thing we need to understand is we are treating the bacteria.
Okay.
We are not treating a human being.
Yeah.
You understand? Like if you have taken an antibiotic today, tomorrow if you come to me again,
Yeah.
like say after a week you get an infection, I should not think that I have treated you last week with the antibiotic, so I'm not going to give you the same antibiotic, I'll give you the different one.
Okay.
This time I'm more considered about what is the bacteria that is infecting you. That is the first thing.
Yeah.
Second thing, there is always a waiting watch period. When you start antibiotics, they say that 72 hours you should wait.
Yeah.
If you don't respond, that is the point when you go back to consult your doctor. So 72 hours is the must.
Right.
Most of the people here, what they do,
Yeah.
they take antibiotics today,
Yeah.
they don't feel better, tomorrow they go back to some other doctor
Right.
and the doctor changes the prescription.
Oh no.
So because of which, he's not going back to this antibiotics now.
And that is dangerous in itself.
Yes, that is the most important cause for antibiotic resistance.
All right, we're going to actually throw a few questions to Dr. Harriet. These are frequently asked questions that, you know, we're going to engage you on, Dr. Samrat, in just a moment. But let's talk a little bit about our habits and where we go wrong with antibiotics. And this is now looking at it from the patient's perspective. Okay. You know, like you said one is that we tend to shift consultants.
Yes.
All the time. If Samrat doesn't work for me, I'm going to go to Dr. Shah.
Yes.
If Dr. Shah doesn't work for me, I go to Dr. Shiko.
Yes.
Like that.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
just one thing that we tend to do wrong.
Yes.
Switching consultants.
Yes.
Okay. What other thing do we, you know, do that seems to be...
The other thing is we insist on antibiotics. Patients, most of the patients, they insist on antibiotics. We want antibiotics, we want antibiotics. Third thing is over the counter they take antibiotics, which is wrong. Most of the common misconceptions what people I have seen here is when they are exposed to rain, they feel they have pneumonia, which is wrong, which is never true.
Right.
Then having headache, they feel they have malaria, which is never true.
Right.
What happens is when you have these misconceptions, you go to the counter, you start taking drugs for them. So because of this, you start getting resistance to antibiotics.
Right.
So over-the-counter prescriptions taken by the patients are wrong.
Yes.
Thinking that they have pneumonia and getting worried is wrong. Changing the consultants on and again is wrong. Okay, and incomplete dosage of antibiotics.
Right.
The biggest threat today is incomplete dosage of antibiotics.
Wow. Yeah.
They take antibiotics for 2 to 3 days, then they stop it because they feel good.
Yes.
Which is not true.
Right.
You should never do that. Antibiotic course is always to be completed as recommended by the doctor.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, speaking about some of the frequently asked questions that we have received from you on our Wellness Wednesday concerning the discussion that we have at hand, which is antibiotics resistance, we do have a board that's going to be up with some of these questions. And Dr. Samrat, please be honest, be frank about it. Tell us what we are doing wrong. And these are what, you know, is coming in from our viewers today. And as we start with the first one, this is it. Which infections are caused by viruses and should not be treated with antibiotics? Okay. Good question.
Yeah. So the basic thing is common cold.
Yes.
Whenever you have burning in the eyes, running nose, so a simple way to understand is if you have running nose, you have burning in the eyes, it's a viral infection, you don't need antibiotics. first thing. Second thing, sinusitis.
Okay.
You don't need antibiotics. Sore throat, you don't need antibiotics. Patients having bronchitis, cough, cold, having sputum production, you don't need antibiotics. So basic thing what you need to know is, if you have fever, be concerned that you may need antibiotics. Even in that, it is being told fever of 102 and more, then you consider antibiotics. Fever of 102 or less, you can still wait and watch. So these are the simple things which you need to understand.
Okay.
Coming to children having ear discharge, a very common disease. You need not worry about it, unless and until the children has fever.
Yeah.
If you have fever, go to the doctor and consult for antibiotics. Otherwise, you don't need antibiotics.
Right. And so what are you suggesting then, that if we have this waiting period, are people supposed to be resorting to natural remedies, so to speak? Like if you've got the common cold, is it that now you're just encouraging someone warm drinks, keeping warm, you know, just the usual practices?
Yes.
Or what do you suggest?
The best thing for common cold is take rest.
Okay.
That's the best thing. Take rest. Do not expose yourself to other and give that viral infection to others. See, when you sneeze, 6 meters around you, you are going to infect others. So you take rest, allow people to not get infection from you. Third thing would be drink warm water. Okay, you can gargle with salt and water. You can take a pinch of salt in a warm water and gargle 3-4 times in a day. You can take steam of hot water. And these basic things would be enough to combat with that virus.
Okay. Yes. And here we are thinking it's actually a joke when you're told take rest because you have a cold. Many people sideline that because they think it's not that important.
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Stafford, we're going to take a short commercial break right now. But when we get back, we're still on those frequently asked questions that you have concerning antibiotic usage. We are talking about antibiotic resistance today on this show, and it could be your habits that are causing you to actually stay unwell. And so if you do have any questions for Dr. Samrat, please go ahead, get in touch with us through our social media platforms at K24TV on Instagram, Facebook, as well as Twitter. If you prefer to call, well, the numbers are going to be at the bottom of your screen. Please call in. Would be happy to actually, answer some of your questions right here on Wellness Wednesday, only on Alpha Jerry. Don't go away. We'll be right back.